We're going to talk about supply and demand. Now, you might know of jokes about that's really all economists ever say. You could teach a parrot to be an economist if you just teach the parrot to say squawk, supply and demand. But we'll try to go to a little more detail here, not be bird brains. Let's start by talking about idealized markets. Even though we know that, well, actually a lot of the world is not ideal. But to begin with, we can imagine an ideal and then move on to add in some complexities. People buy and sell so many different goods and services. Many of them are extremely specialized. A movie might hire an extra to be person number 3 in a scene where they just want some kind of generic face. But then they also need to hire a star, some person who will make the movie, and often there's a very short list of possible people, sometimes just a single actor. Sometimes firms buy the labor of generic people, other times particular individuals. The former are more like commodities. Many of us are selling our labor and getting our wages where there's a market. Not too many companies are just going to want to hire some rando, although there are firms that hire day laborers. Other hires go through many, many rounds of interviews, so a lot of markets are extremely specialized. In this class on high-value crops, we have to concentrate on the process by which some outputs are distinguished from commodities. In creating commodities, many people have worked really hard to make them standardized, to make sure they're comparable, make sure it's okay to ignore whatever remaining differences are there. This process is called commoditization, people creating commodities. Now, there's nothing inherent in the thing that would make it a commodity or not. It's transformed by how people view it. For example, grocery stores buy apples as commodities. They're graded by quality, size, variety, but within that, they're buying apples in bulk as commodities. But when you go to the supermarket, you might carefully look them over. You want to distinguish. This one looks better. Maybe it's not even a bit bruised, has good color, whatever. There's nothing inherent in the apples that makes them a commodity or not. It's just sometimes one party, the grocery store, views them as a commodity, while another party, the picky consumer, views them as a differentiated good. Now, coffee beans are sometimes commoditized. Contracts might specify bags of a certain grade of beans, even the details of the bag. It took a good deal of human ingenuity and quite a lot of lawyers' billable hours to create this commodity. A corporation might want to create a homogeneous good. For instance, Starbucks creates its Pike Place blend, and they work to ensure that year to year, place to place, that tastes identical. Even though the beans might be sourced from different countries. These abstract commoditized goods are useful in a lot of cases. For instance, we have coffee futures from ICE, that's Intercontinental Exchange, not the other ones. Each contract is for 37,500 pounds of green, unroasted Arabica beans from any one of 20 different countries of origin, delivered to either the US or Europe, different prices for delivery to different ports. Beans from Colombia, Costa Rica, Kenya, and Guatemala are worth more. From Brazil, there's a discount. There are also contracts from Brazil's BMF, Bolsa Mercadorias y Futuros. Again, many detailed specifications. Now, they're futures because companies can buy or sell them in advance, in the future. Once these contracts are created, then the ICE exchange creates a new commodity, which is the spread between the Coffee C futures and Brazil's BMF. Then they create options, which is the right to buy or sell at a specified price, referring to those futures contracts. One abstraction is built on another. So much of human work has this character. Sometimes you hear people say, it's not real, but so much of our reality is built on these shared abstractions. I can go in a fancy coffee shop, buy an individualized cup of artisanal coffee where they tell me the names of the people who grew the beans, but I buy that with some green pieces of paper. It's another commodity that has been created by human activity. Now, an idealized commodity trading in an idealized market has some basic features. It's non-durable, so we don't have to worry about decisions about buy now, store it for later. It's a private good without externalities, so the decision by the consumer about what to do with it has no cost or benefit to others. We assume many firms could offer to sell the good. Many consumers can buy it, so nobody has real control over the price. We assume the market is small relative to other markets, so I don't have to worry too much about interdependencies. We assume that quantity and quality are known and verifiable, and all transactions are well enforced. Now, if we have an ideal market for an ideal commodity, then we can draw supply and demand curve. On the horizontal axis, we have the quantity, how much of it is traded. On the vertical axis, we have the price at which it is traded. Like the budget curve, we're assuming that everybody pays the same price for all they buy. There's a market price, everybody knows it. The supply curve is the upward sloping yellowish curve, and the demand curve is the downward sloping blue one. The intersection point is Q star, P star. I've picked that out because it's important. So if this were the supply and demand of coffee beans, we would see that at higher prices, people would buy less of it, while they'd buy more at a lower price. Suppliers, on the other hand, would be willing to sell more if they could get a higher price, while at a lower price, they'd offer to sell less. Now, digging a little deeper, the demand curve for the individual is the extra benefit gained from consuming one more unit. A rational consumer would compare costs and benefits. If the market price is below the benefit of consumption, then they choose to consume one more. That's likely to be diminishing marginal utility, of course. The first cup of coffee, oh, that's awesome. Really deeply appreciate it. The second, oh, that's good. The third and the fourth and more, they're good, but the amount of the extra benefit is starting to decline. Compare that with the cost and decide how much to consume. Rational people would consider, well, if I buy one more of this commodity, then I would get some benefit, but it would cost me the market price. If the benefit is greater than the cost, then I buy that one more unit. If the benefit is not greater than the cost, then I would not buy that one more unit. As long as the benefit tends to go down as I buy more, while the cost stays constant, then eventually I'll stop buying. The individual demand curve shows how many items this person will want to purchase at a given price. It slopes downward. Then we combine all the individual demand curves to get the market demand curve. How much would be purchased by all the different people? If at a price of 25 for a bottle of wine, say, person A would want 3, person B would want 2, person C would want 0, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then the market demand is the sum of how many each person wants at a certain price. Now, it's generally understood that certain prices are more salient in people's decisions to go from 0 to 1, while others are more salient to go to 1 to 2 or 10 to 11. For instance, a restaurant might have a special on appetizers, which are directed at people who've already decided to eat there, but the restaurant wants to encourage them to spend a little more. Keeping the price of the main courses below a certain price point, that's more relevant for people deciding whether or not to eat there at all. There are a lot of complexities here. We draw a simple line, but we know it's not really simple if you look deeper. People's choices about how much to demand depends on a lot of additional factors, not only the price of the good. We're simplifying. Now, one key factor is income. A poor person might have low demand for food, but it's not that they don't want it, just they can't afford it. A person with more wealth would demand more of an item at any price. That shifts their demand curve outward. There are plenty of other factors that shift the demand curve, such as changing preferences, demographics, prices of related goods. But the demand curve is going to slope down. The massive global coffee shop, the one I mean, they know this. If they raise the price of their grande cappuccino by 10 cents, they'll sell fewer grande cappuccinos. They might still do it. We'll talk more about that decision later. Or they might have a sale, go in the opposite direction, drop the price, because that will mean they'll sell more. Those are movements along the demand curve. Now, the demand curve can also shift up or down. I've drawn here an example where it shifts down. For instance, if people have less money, maybe there is a recession. Then at whatever price, people tend to buy less. Again, thinking of that giant global coffee shop selling grande cappuccinos, if there's a recession, then people will buy fewer of their drinks, even if the price doesn't change. Then on the flip side, there's the supply curve. It's the opportunity cost of producing a certain quantity of output. If I'm running a coffee shop, serving coffee at a deli, how much more does it cost me to sell some more coffee? I need to get more beans, got to grind them or purchase them already ground. I need more cups, more of each kind of milk, the whole milk, soya milk, almond, whatever, etc., etc. I need more sugar, the other sweeteners, more hot water. I pay for the energy to get it, keep it hot. I got to make sure there's somebody there to make it. Some person got to get paid. There are a lot of things. As the market price goes up, each shop is willing to sell more, and also more shops are willing to sell it at all, and in greater varieties. Not too long ago, a deli would only sell coffee, and if you asked for almond milk, say, you just get stares. But now more delis offer fancy options. They went out, they bought high-tech machines, so eventually these increases in demand work up the supply chain. If more people drink coffee, then coffee growers will sell more beans. Not immediately, maybe in the next growing season, they'll have to plant more, fertilize more. The price of fertilizer goes up, then it becomes more expensive to grow beans, and they'll be offered for sale at a higher price. That would shift the entire supply curve inward and upward. Just as with the demand curve, so too with supply, there are a lot of different reasons the whole curve might shift. Worse weather might shift the supply curve inward and upward. Better weather can shift it outwards. This is the short-run supply. So recently, coffee bean prices have rocketed upwards. Farmers are going to sell more. Maybe they used to keep more for personal use, but now they're going to sell them in the market. In the longer run, farmers will plant more, so the supply will be more responsive to price in the longer term. Farmers can plant more, but that takes time to grow, obviously.